What's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown, episode 276. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez,
What's up, people? How's it going?
Chris Seeley,
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero,
Yo.
Brett Murdoch,
What's up, party people?
Brian Manjoma.
What up, people? What up?
All right, and we're joined by a very special guest. We haven't had this dude on in years, man. Mr. Brian Wilson, a.k.a. B. Will. What's going on, brother?
What's up, people? What's up, guys, fellas? I'm still a big fan of the show, obviously. Glad to be here.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, before we go on, Will, man, we got to catch up a little bit because it's been a hottest minute since you've been on Throwdown. But for you guys who don't know, B. Will used to do Knights of the Turntable on the Coalition with Charles, who's also a good friend of the podcast. Were you also on Coins to Continue, Will?
I every now and then I jump on there, but I did some of the audio work because I do some audio engineering, so I helped Charles out with that too. So yeah, I was involved with that.
Yeah, and currently, and it's funny how like the associations like kind of bring us all together again. You're back on the Coalition as a writer. So yes, tell us about that. Like, what inspired you to write, the things that you're writing about, and all that good stuff.
Well, honestly, man, it's always been an interest. I mean, I'm just like you guys, and y'all have jobs. I know Tony has a job in industry, and Manny, has a job working behind the scenes in the industry. But I take in gaming information because I'm interested in it. I'm interested in the dynamics of companies, the changes they make. I mean, just as a player coming up from NES, because I'm a 80s baby. So was always interested, always wanted the time to write. And I actually was like, man, I just need to do it. I need to take the time and start putting pen to paper and get some stuff out there because I'm thinking about this shit all the time. I'm talking about it all the time. I'm listening to y'all show and other podcasts with these ideas stirring around in my head. So let me get it down on paper and put it up somewhere. So Richard Bailey was cool enough to say, yeah, man, you can put some stuff up on there, and it worked out. So the first piece I just put up on there was Tuesday, and it was just talking about how, I mean, it really came from you guys because you guys do this beautiful thing on your shows where instead of having to be a podcast that's going to go out and everybody feels like they have to be right when they jump out and make a prediction or make a statement, you guys just say what you feel and talk to each other however about whatever that feeling is. It's like, well, no, that's wrong or that's stupid. And nobody takes it personal, which is beautiful. It's like, just be whatever you're feeling right there. If you're wrong, who cares? Just talk about it. You come up with new ideas just talking through shit. And that's how I am when I talk to my friends and my family. It's like we just talk about whatever we feel. Nobody takes it personal. And then we're like, you know what? You get to a new spot on that topic just by talking through it. And that's beautiful, man. So that really kind of gave me the ammunition for this one, which was y'all were like, what the fuck is Sony doing? And the whole time I'm thinking, you know what? I don't think Sony's making too big a mistake. Now, the press conference was a mistake. We can talk about that later. But
we will.
We'll talk about that.
But as far as waiting a long time to get into it, I still don't think it was the worst thing because there is definitely a drop dead date for, all right, you guys need to put your shit on the table. And we just haven't hit that point yet. So I'm just not too worried about them. And I'm still not really.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I know you had to kind of get that out, like kind of fast because Sony announced they were going to say something. It's like, fuck, man. You guys couldn't have waited,
I know, man. I was like, God damn.
Yeah, no, but the piece was dope, and again, it kind of makes sense that you would write that because, like, whenever you submit questions, so it's always the longest fucking questions we get. It's like, so I know you got a lot to say, so that's a fitting, like, home for you at the Coalition where you can just get your thoughts out there. And I do want to quickly say something about what you just said about how, we talk through shit no matter how heated it gets. Like, because especially when the Switch was, like, coming out and stuff, people saw Brett and Chris going at it, like really, really heated debates and stuff. What they didn't see is that right after those shows, every single time, what would these two guys do? Get together and play Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
Like, we don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we're all passionate shit. We don't take the shit personal,
Well,
exactly.
the thing about it is that, like, if you're really good friends, you could still have a difference of opinion. But the biggest difference is actually listening to what that other person says. And, who knows? Maybe you might change your mind based on what the other person says, or maybe you don't, but you still can go have a beer right after.
That's it.
Oh, dude, but I love how the fans sometimes will be like, well, your views are inconsistent. You changed your views. And we're like, yeah, that's what happens. Like, we argue our shit and we go, you know what? Actually, that's a good point. You might be right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, but on this episode you said this, but on this episode you said that. It's like, yeah, it's called changing my mind based on new information, bruh. Mm-hmm. That's how it works, man. So yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I change my mind about shit all the time. It's like, oh, new information. Okay, I got to change my mind about that. With the fucking Switches, that's the perfect example. I was adamant that shit would only sell 4 million in its lifetime. How stupid do I look now? You know, but that's just how it is, man. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm glad you're here with us, Mister. Again, I'm gonna call you just B Will for the rest of the night because we got Brian here. I'm not trying to go through all that shit.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's great.
Just like when I play Division 2 with Chris here, and then my cousin Chris, like, all right, I'm just calling you by your handles because nah. You know, but the funny thing is, these guys call each other by their handles. Like, you guys can get away with calling yourselves Chris. It's okay. No one's. It's hilarious, man. Anyway, but before that, Manny, are you ready yet, man, or do you need a little bit of time?
We are ready.
Oh, shit!
Excuse me.
I did all that stuff beforehand.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me just pull this over to the other screen.
All right, and let me put myself on full screen here. Come on, Discord.
Full screen.
Anyway, so tonight we're gonna have a giveaway, people. We've been talking about this for a while, and this will not be the last. We're gonna have more of these. So anyway, tonight we're giving away a free Logitech G915 mechanical gaming keyboard, wireless keyboard, courtesy of us. I've reviewed this. I played this. Not this one. This one's still closed and stuff. It's really dope. It has like backlighting and shit. You could program it. The keys feel really good. The battery life, it's 30 hours, which is actually really, really good. A bunch of other cool shit. So you guys you guys entered the contest by going over to our Twitter and answering the question that we have pinned, which was, what is your most anticipated game of 2020? Do you guys want to read some of the responses? Yeah, let's read some of the responses. Why not, you know?
Pull up the Twitter.
Yeah, let me pull up the Twitter. Give me a sec here. Twitter, Throwdown Podcast, at Throwdown Show. Don't forget to follow. Throwdown. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna read these. Fuck it. Sketch, who's also one of our gaming friends. I am here with my plasma sword, ready to take the Umbral Plains and Doom Eternal. So Doom Eternal is his one. Got our friend Black Star, who says Ghost of Tsushima. Got Dio, Illustrated Dio says the next Arc System Works game, which is Guilty Gear Strive, which was actually announced recently. We got Do the Third, Cyberpunk. We got Nick Castro. We got to get him back on the show with his big ass muscles and shit. Doom Eternal. We got Cool Cat Terry, Cyberpunk. We got Philly Fred, Last of Us 2. We got Innate, also Cyberpunk. We got Pixel Protocol, The Last of Us 2. We got Mr. Gata. His answer is also Cyberpunk 2077. Ryan, a.k.a. Common Sense, also Cyberpunk. Well, I'm noticing a trend here. Ultimate Gamer, Chief Tomei is Cyberpunk. We got Mr. B. He says Elden Ring. I don't know if Elden Ring is coming out this year, but we'll accept it.
Elden Ring.
We got The Last of Us 2 from GZDR. It's kind of cool that we're seeing a bunch of the regulars showing up here. We got Joseph A. Brock Jr., Cyberpunk 2077. Got The Stars, The Last of Us 2. We got Doom Eternal from Paikuhan. We got Animal Crossing from Retro Game Blogger. That's an interesting one. I think you may be the only guy in there talking about Animal Crossing.
Real quick. Quick shout out to 2DX NYC who just subscribed.
Oh, my man. I can shout you out. That's Jeffrey, man. Shout out to you, brother.
I'll get down to Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Don't you hate?
Yeah, no, I'm not hating. I'm just saying, you know, it may be the only one here. All right, we got Michael. I can't pronounce your last name there. FF7 Remake. We got Will Washed Hands. Brenda, wash them fucking hands, man. I don't think Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this year, bruh, but, you know, sure. He says in his heart of hearts it's a 2020 release. We'll accept it, sir. CK says Kerbal Space Program 2. Brett, there you go, man.
Oh, they're making a 2?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, he says he would have said Cyberpunk, but everyone else already did. So, and he also he says CK on Twitch. That's SEAKAE. Shout out to CK, man.
CK is a cool dude. He actually used to work in the gaming industry.
Industry.
Yep.
Yeah. By the way, I love how you can see my fucking Conan books back there. All right. We got El Ramos, Last of Us 2. He goes, Last of Us 2, baby. We got Kushisto, Cyberpunk 2077, What the Rick, Last of Us 2, and G Megaforce 123, Guilty Gear Strive. All right, man. So let's roll. Let me get Manny up here. We're gonna do the wheel of fucking morality. Did we name this shit yet?
Let's call it the Wheel of Fate.
All right, the Wheel of Fate. All right, spin this shit and we'll select the winner at random. Let's go. Thing's running at like 2 frames a second right now.
Oh, is that running on a Series X?
Yeah, no, it fucking Discord has the coronavirus, man.
Oh god.
Oh shit.
All right, sorry, you have to bear with it, people. This shit's running at 2. Okay, it got a winner. Oh shit, Cool Cat Terry is the winner. All right, so what?
Congratulations, Cool Cat Terry.
And so Cyberpunk. All right, so check this out, Cool Cat. This is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna double this shit right now, people.
Whoa!
You double dipping?
Yeah. Not only am I going to give you this keyboard, I'm also gonna buy you Cyberpunk.
Oh, dirt!
Courtesy of Throwdown, baby.
Snap, baby.
You know, whatever system you want. Terry's a good guy. He talks to me every once in a while, so I could at least get in touch with him. Sometimes, let's just be honest, sometimes, these guys win something and they just never show up, which is weird, Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was. I mean, especially we should say it now. I mean, because of you guys, that we're able to do that. We're able to buy you guys games thanks to our to all of our followers on Twitch. We can do that sort of good stuff.
And I'm gonna announce this now because I'm not gonna disclose how much, obviously, but we just got another payout from Twitch. Thanks to you guys, because you guys keep leaving us bits for every episode. Like right now, who the fuck just gave us money, man? Goose, my man.
All right, man. Shout out to Goose, man.
Yeah, so thanks to guys like Goose. Thanks to Glorious War. You guys are always leaving us bits. Techno Fabulous, obviously.
Call of Duty.
That we get money, and since we already have equipment for ourselves, we're all good on that. We're like, just give the money back to the fans. So not only am I going to give a game to Cool Cat Terry, we're going to have another game giveaway pretty soon. So stay tuned, because remember, there's a lot of games dropping. We got Final Fantasy VII. We got a bunch of shit coming. So yeah, get ready. Within the next couple of weeks, we're going to do another game giveaway and more.
The Last of Us 2.
Excuse me. Ghost of Tsushima. Fucking,
dirt.
Hold on, there's some
Resident Evil
3. Oh, dirt. Yo. So yeah, we're gonna do another giveaway. We're gonna do giveaways pretty frequently in general.
Which
games?
By the way, you guys should be playing a demo. It's out on.
Yeah, get the demo, people. Get the demo. MLB The Show Neo 2. Yeah. Whatever games you want, man. Can't front our perfect timing. No problem, bro. You guys put out good content. Thank you, Goose. Appreciate that, man. You already know. Yeah, Goose is one of our newer fans and stuff, but he got hooked. He's listened to old shows and shit. He's, going in there in the Discord going ham. He's giving me shit about not taking coronavirus seriously. Can't kill me, motherfucker. I'm too stubborn. Anyway, let's do this, man. We got some big news. So this week, the Spec Wars, people. Spec Wars. So first we had Xbox, who came out the gate with the specs for the Xbox Series X, and then 2 days after, we got PlayStation giving their specs. So let's get into it. And Chris, we talked about this before. I'm going to have you be my man in front, because a lot of shit just go over my head. I'm being honest, so I'll let the tech guys pretty much take over from this point. So Chris, man, tell us about PlayStation and Xbox and all that other good stuff in whatever order you feel like talking about it. And you know how it is. We'll jump in and give our thoughts and shit,
Yeah. Well, I mean, so looking at what Microsoft put out there, they were the first to put out specs and everything, and I feel like we if you listened yesterday, we were on when Mark Cerny was given basically what was to be their GDC presentation, but they just put it out there. That's why it was honestly that's why it was so boring, because he would really be giving that to other developers and engineers and stuff, and they would be able to understand everything he's doing. He was using acronyms I never heard of, especially when he's talking about audio. So the audio stuff I'm gonna mention, but I don't understand HRTF and all that stuff. Like that went over my head. I'm like, shit, I don't know what he's talking about 3D audio. But so the interesting philosophical difference between Xbox and PS5 is Microsoft is trying to they're both trying to compromise on performance and cost, right? So Microsoft's philosophy is like, give consistent power, more power, and then but fabricate things in such a way as to keep costs down. Sony's approaching it from kind of where they're putting the most R&D and focus into, and then where they're kind of leveling off. So their CPU is not as powerful as the one presented for the Series X. The Series X is a Zen 2 custom that's 3.8 gigahertz, and it's going to run consistently. So when they say it outputs 13 teraflops, that's not variable. Like, it will cap at that, but it will always run at that speed. And then what Cerny said interesting yesterday is that the philosophy behind that is how like mobile phones and current processors and PCs throttle power down, in concerns for heat. So when your CPU heats up, what does it do? You lower the voltage, which then lowers the speed and then cools makes it run cooler. So his philosophy is that they approach it by adjusting the frequency, so the CPU frequency, and throttling that instead of the power, so that they can push things to the GPU and kind of compensate a little bit for how the processing works, so that you can still get somewhat consistent performance without it actually being up to speed where it should be. So that's an interesting way of getting around that issue, while also I would think that their CPU, their custom Zen 2 system, would be slightly cheaper than Microsoft's to fabricate out of the gate. So that's where they saved money. Where they spent money, though, is their custom SSD solution, which he's boasting that it has a 5.5 gigabyte per second throughput, which is unheard of. Like, you could go on Newegg and buy a new M2 SSD right now on the PCIe spec, right? And it caps it. I don't even think it caps at 3 right now. So that's impressive, right? So he showed in his presentation how they looked at the bottlenecks, because what he's trying to do, and I understand that what Sony's trying to do, is eliminate the bottlenecks between the data that you have stored for the game and getting it to the CPU and memory as fast as possible. So that idea is that, okay, an SSD is sufficiently fast, but not as fast as RAM, right? So you have 3 types of memory going through a system. In your CPU, you have what's called registers, and that's ultra fast memory. That memory is running at this super high rate, and it can access data super fast, but it's super expensive, which is why there's small amounts of it. It's measured in kilobytes. And then you have RAM, and that's also as fast, but orders of magnitude slower than what's running in your CPU. And then before that, before we had SSDs, what did you have? You had magnetic storage. That was way orders of magnitude slower than RAM. It wasn't even comparative. So pushing data to memory, especially when memory was so fast, the bottleneck was always your hard drive. It didn't matter how wide the pipe was in the bus and whatever. The spinning platters can only serve data so fast. He was making that point early on in the presentation, that you have seek times of 2 to 50 milliseconds and whatever, and data on the drive, so as to seek it all over the place. So that those concerns are eliminated with an SSD. But then where they went further is, like, now they have a custom bus. Basically, they've made a proprietary bus and SSD memory that is operating at a bandwidth that's not available to purchase now. If you bought a PC right now, it wouldn't be able to have these speeds. If he's being honest about it, which I think he is. And even the upgrade for the PS5, he said you could put a certified M2 in there for expansion. Well, you can't just go out right now and buy one and expect to have it for the system, because the PCIe 4 spec isn't even out yet, and it's not. And he said it had to hit a saturation rate that was above what the internal SSD has. So it's really impressive. So
Can I
pushing,
just jump in like really quick,
yeah,
Chris?
sure,
I actually decided to do some research on what drives are available, and
okay,
there's like 1 or 2 PCI 4 M.2 drives that are available. But they cap out. Well, according to them, they cap out at 5 gigabytes per second, not the 5.5. So it is possible to get close to it now, but not faster than it. I guess.
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
not too bad.
And they were talking about like theoretically, like one of the highest points it can get is up to even like 7 gigabytes per second.
Well, yeah, that he said that was a saturation point for the 4.0 spec.
Yeah.
And in the compression, if I'm understanding it right, the compression for the SSD, if they compress the data going into memory, the internal SSD on the PS5 can achieve 8 to 9 gigabytes per second.
Yeah.
Uncompressed data is it caps at 5.5, but that's still very impressive. And I looked at the Xbox spec, and they're using while they're using a custom M2, which is probably like what Brian found online. Theirs caps at 2.4 gigabytes a second.
For raw data.
While that's for raw data, yeah. So while it's pushing data pretty fast, I mean that's faster than most other hard drives. Certainly faster than what's in most Xbox One X's and PS4 Pros right now. Unless you have put an SSD in there, it's way faster. But it's still they're trying to obtain speed where they don't have it at the CPU level quite where Xbox has it, but pushing data through that fast will allow like a lot of big games with huge textures, all these 4K textures, open world games, to be able to stream a lot faster. There's one thing he didn't talk about though, because we were kind of joking about this while we were playing the Division. This Division has horrible load times, right? So it's like, will this fix that? And I mean, my initial gut reaction is no, because like this games as a service, it has to contact a server and do all this bullshit, and Ubisoft has to send all this data to you. So that's like another bottleneck, which I wish he had talked about, like how the networking adapter and stuff in the PS5 works, but he didn't talk about that at all. So I guess we have to wait and see if they made any strides on that to up the kind of bandwidth and throughput and lower latency on the networking side. The other thing they did to help increase processing is the PS5 has a sound processing unit, which then all the audio is processed in its own chip and not handled by either the CPU or the GPU. So they're freeing up processing bandwidth to handle just game data and visuals and not have to do the sound, and all the sound is processed separately. So that would be pretty huge in helping its performance.
Didn't they say it was like a core dedicated to audio that's kind of like the equivalent of a core of a Jaguar chip?
Yeah. So I mean, it can handle all that audio data. Then you don't have the CPU handling any of it. Pretty much, unless like something comes out of balance and maybe it picks up the slack or something else picks up the slack. But if you have all that bandwidth going to another core, then you have way more potential for processing, and so that's where it makes up for it. And where in Microsoft's case, it's pretty standard. They have their custom Zen 2, which is running at a faster speed, so therefore their teraflop measurement is higher. And they don't have variable frequency, so they just can operate at the highest frequency they have consistently, and they have their own, the same type of memory. I'm assuming they're both using 16 gigabytes of DDR6. So
yeah,
I don't know.
The difference is though that I think for the Xbox One, was it 10 gigabytes of the 16 gigs are working at the highest throughput, but I think like some others are working at a lower throughput.
That's interesting. I don't know how that works. Like, why wouldn't they have it all? Is it a heat issue? They're not having it all running at the same frequency.
Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, I'm only looking at the raw stats. I didn't see that they clocked some of the RAM lower than others. So that's kind of interesting. So like I said, both systems are making compromise in certain things and coming up with ways to kind of compensate for that and up speed in other ways, where they're not just throwing raw power in one area. Like we need the best CPU in the system and the fastest RAM or whatever. That doesn't matter. And Cerny made good points. Like all these bottlenecks that he was talking about, like file I/O and data verification going into memory and stuff. Yeah, that slows things down. And if they have found a way to optimize all that, that you can have a pipeline that's huge going from storage into RAM for processing, then you've increased speed like tremendously, and that makes for good experience, right? And that's what they want. They want the experience to be seamless. They don't want people waiting for load times. They don't want maps to have to be capped at a certain speed because you can't load the rest of the map fast enough to stream the game. So, hence that was his example in his first presentation where he's talking about Spider-Man swinging through the city. He can only go at a certain speed because the rest of the city can't load that fast. But now with this, like, now they can load it fast, so it's possible you could get ridiculous speeds going through. And I would look forward to seeing like GTA 6 or whatever, how they handle it. And maybe you have supercars in the game that can actually perform like supercars, and they're not capped to like some slow speed.
Yeah, so I looked it up. It says developers will be able to using the overall 16 gigabytes of memory in two ways. There's 10 gigabytes for fast GPU optimal memory, 3.5 gigabytes for standard memory, and 2.5 reserved for the OS. So 10 gigabytes for fast GPU memory. So I don't know, like, it looks like it's not unified RAM. So yeah, I don't know how it's gonna work.
That's usually it's flipped around, right? Usually the system RAM is more than the graphics RAM.
Yeah,
This is flipped around. I mean, there's strategy there in some ways, but I'm not sure too much about the Xbox strategy because I mean they haven't talked. I don't know. I didn't see any technical talk about that one, but
the Xbox strategy to me is like it's kind of more status quo compared to the PS5 because it's like, okay, we're gonna give you these specs for the GPU, CPU. They don't have variable clock rates. They're more powerful. We're pretty much gonna brute force our way through the performance for the games for the
right.
Xbox Series X.
But that's been that was their strategy with the Xbox One X. What was the upgrade?
Yeah.
It's just like brute force power, more power, more memory. We're going to solder things to the board to increase bus speeds and whatever. Yeah. So they improved it, but you cannot improve it so much because the Jaguar was not a good processor to begin with. The Zen 2 is in a whole different league now. And then, so the strides that they made versus the strides that Sony has made, the research path that Sony went on to look at storage and how everything moves through the pipeline to processing versus Microsoft, who did it. So it's like a bottom up to top down, right? Sony went bottom up. They're like, the storage is too slow. How do we get the pipeline working so when you get to processing, like everything is there and we have the fastest pipeline possible? And Microsoft moves from a top down. It's like we need power at the CPU and then everything else feeds into that. So make sure that, and then everything trickles backwards to storage. So that's an interesting how they approached it from two different directions.
Yeah. And honestly, for me, it's like if you get to play like regardless like of performance, like we were talking about 12 teraflops compared to 10 teraflops, and I'm like that difference is negligible if I can play my games without load times at the very least, because that thing, like, no load times for me is a game changer. It's something that I think people would fall in love with, and it's something that people actually like notice, compared to like slight graphical improvements.
Yeah, that was the one part of the boring ass presentation, which we'll get to. The presentation itself that caught my eye. I was just like, yo, load times? Because that's my biggest pet peeve, man. Fucking load times. They've been getting worse over the years. You figured they get better, but it's just been kind of pretty terrible,
And us being classic gamers, us having old systems like Super Nintendo and stuff, and then seeing things just gradually get slower and slower as a service, like to put this kind of technology is kind of going back to those days of increasing speed to the point where you can boot up your system, it boots up in a second or two, and you load a game and it loads like the old days when you put in a cartridge and turn that shit on, it worked,
Yeah, got to blow on it a couple of times, but it worked. Yeah, for sure. Hey, B-Will, jump in here, man. Well, what are your thoughts on some of this stuff?
Well, I mean, I tried watching the Digital Foundry breakdown of it because I mean, most of that shit went over my head too. And the only thing, so there were two things that really stuck out that I tried to make sense of. One was, okay, this is some groundbreaking SSD technology, but that's a 825 gigabit hard drive. That is small as shit. Now we can upgrade it on our own, just like they've given us the option to do with PS3 and PS4. But from the specs that they said, okay, like, oh, yeah, you can upgrade your own, but it's gonna have to be certified this type of SSD memory. If that stuff can't even be found, or it's cost $400 for me to find a 1.5 terabyte or a 2 terabyte drive, then I'm doubling the cost of my system potentially.
One thing that they do, well, no one ever, not even on the Cerny thing, but it is a part of the tech specs.
Mhm.
It also does allow for external drives, just like the PlayStation 4 currently does. So if you can't find one to stick in front of inside of it, you probably could have an external storage. But my guess is the only way that you can take advantage of these sort of fast load times is if things are loaded on the actual hard drive inside the console.
Oh, definitely. That's the case. Like, if you don't put it on the SSD, then you won't have those fast load times. And also, I didn't hear him say that it's possible to load PS5 games on the external hard drive as well. So it seems like PS5 games are only going to be limited to the SSD, and that's it. Because again, he said that you can put you can hook up your external drive to the PS5, and load your PS4 games from there. He never said PS4 and PS5 games. Which leads me to believe that you're just limited to that 825 gigs for PS5 games, and that's it. Unless you pay like the extra like $200-$300 for like the big boy like 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte SSD.
Man,
I want to jump in on that because basically Mark Cerny said that the type of SSD that you need is not even on the market yet, which is pretty interesting. And when they do come on the market, they need to be very specific. You can't just, Chris, we talked about this last night. It's like you can't just go on Newegg and just buy whatever SSD. It needs to be very specific. Right. Otherwise, the shit is not going to work. Digital Foundry talked about that. I was like, you can't just go in there, just put in whatever. It has to be very specific, very tailored to this thing for work. But yeah, you can't. Go ahead.
Well, I'm wondering when they start selling those, like Brian found a couple, but when the PS5 launches, right? Will Sony go out to SSD manufacturers and give them like a certification that they could put on the thing, or do you have to go to Sony's website and go, oh, what's compatible, and then just buy it? A lot of people are not going to do that. They're just going to go buy some shit and it's not going to work right.
Well, listen, when you go to Sony's site to get your ear fucking measured and shit, you can do that, We'll talk about that in a bit,
We'll talk about that.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting how much these things are going to cost, because we're talking about brand new technology that's not even out yet, and man, what, like 825 gigs? That's pretty much the size of Red Dead 3 or fucking GTA 6. Plus DLC maybe.
And they didn't even say how much of that was going to be used up by the hard drive. 825 is what you got.
That's by the operating system.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but didn't they also say something about how they're working on a solution to bring down these hard drive, or the file sizes? Did I hear that wrong or something? Because I could have sworn I heard something either that during the presentation or outside. Probably outside the presentation. That presentation fucking put me to sleep. But is that even possible? Like, you can have like these games that have way more like information in them, but still.
Well, you'd have to compress them. They'd have to just compress. So if he's just counting on the speed of the SSD to memory pipeline, then I guess the idea is everything on the hard drive is not installed. It's just compressed at all times until you need it, and then it's uncompressed into RAM at a high enough speed that you don't notice.
And that's when they talked about the Kraken and shit. I'm like,
You unleashing that shit? Like, what are you talking about?
Are we unleashing this shit, or what's going on? So it's like I don't know. Do they have better compression technologies where games are going to be compressed and installed into your SSD and then decompressed and the Kraken and playing great? I don't know. That's something that we're gonna have to find out later on. But I'm pretty happy with sort of the direction that they're going for, because the like Chris mentioned, the hard drive to memory to CPU pipeline is probably one of the biggest bottlenecks. And now that they're introducing this new SSD technology, it's just gonna, like, your SSD is gonna be kind of a pseudo RAM. It might not be as quick as the RAM is, but it's gonna be way closer than anything before.
So it's, in a way, it would kind of say it's like the the virtual RAM almost, like what's on a normal PC.
No, it's physical. It's pretty much going to be like RAM. It's just going to be a little bit slower. But it's going to be way quicker than anything else that exists in the market, including everyone's PCs right now, including obviously all the consoles. So yeah, that's stuff that excites me. And like I've noticed that like 825 gigs is a pretty specific number. It's like, right. I'm kind of confused why they didn't go with a terabyte. Are they we already know the GPU is not as powerful as the Xbox Series X. So are they sort of kind of cutting down on a little bit, chipping a little bit price here, a little bit in price there, to try to get this possibly cheaper than the Xbox Series X, or is this all because they're trying to chip away and most of their R&D was blown on the audio and
oh my god,
SSD technology? So it's like
the reason why it's not more is that they just didn't want to put more chips in it because they thought that it'd be too expensive. Because he mentioned that due to how many chips they have on the SSD, it will dictate how big the size is. So I think they have is it 8 or 12 of them? And because they just didn't want to put in more, they said, okay, we think that this many chips is fine. Hence, that results in 825 gig space, which is okay. So it's literally just because they just don't want to put more.
No, well, yeah, I was talking about like price as well. Like that's probably the main factor.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Because 825 gigs just doesn't sell as good as 1 terabyte.
Right.
It's also the space as well. I'm really concerned about that because I even said that when the PS4 launched, when I found out that Killzone Shadowfall was 50 gigs and the PS4 was 500 gigs, I was like, this is not going to last one generation because if games now are 50 gigs, then in the future there'll be way more space and 500 gigs is not enough. I even said that next gen there needs to be 1 terabyte standard, or else they're not going to survive.
Yo, Tony, how much was the Division 2 DLC?
Fuck.
It's like 50 gigs, right?
Yeah,
or more?
It's 50 gigs, something like that. But let's go further. Call of Duty, man, the Warzone or whatever. That was 90 gigs. 90. That was 90 gigs, man. This shit is crazy. So they definitely need to find a way to. Go ahead, bro.
Warzone is only that big if you don't have the game.
Yeah,
if you have the game,
yeah.
then it's actually slightly less than that. But still, Call of Duty patches are 60 gigs. It's like their patches are bigger than GTA 5 base game.
Yes.
I don't understand how that's possible. Legit makes no sense.
Well, I mean, he also, one thing is you're talking about all that stuff. Remember how there's also in that tech talk, that talk that he did, he talked about how essentially, not TED talk, tech talk. He essentially said how many times a certain object is in the game is put in the game so that it makes for easier to find it. So in other words, he's like, there'll be multiple versions of fire hydrants and all kinds of other things to try to attempt to make loading faster on the old game. So let's say if you with the way this supposed system works, you would only need to put one of each object, and it would just be able to get those things that it needs as it needs them, as opposed to having multiples in there.
Yeah,
it's part of the reason.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and I don't know if this is too off topic, but it's still about SSD and stuff. Based off the Digital Foundry video, they were talking about how the way games are designed right now, level design specifically, they have to be done a certain way, in order to offset the loading and all that, just to make sure the whole shit just doesn't come crashing down, right? Very, very deliberate design. And what I found interesting about what DF brought up, I'm like, oh shit, they said this, the way this SSD works, it could fundamentally change the way games are actually developed, game worlds are developed. So I want to get you guys' take on that. B-Will, why don't you go first? What do you think? What do you think about that?
Just to give you guys a good example of what that sort of design is. You ever notice that, like in every single game, there's at least one section where they're kind of squeezing through.
That's loading.
Squeezing through a little path, or they have to climb up both of them have to climb up a ladder, or they have to lift up a big log out of the way.
Elevators is another one.
Yeah. Elevators, those things are all hidden loading times.
Or when you go through multiple rooms that are interconnected, but they have nothing in them, that's all loading too, So yeah, B-Will, what do you think about that? Like the possibility of actual game worlds being completely rethought because of the SSD.
Well, it brought me into two things, and one was that the reaction from several outlets were talking about, they talked to devs because devs had been kind of itching to talk about it. They had the dev kits in their hands for a while, and they were like giddy about the shit apparently. So the fact that devs are excited, that kind of gets me excited because I don't know the last time that devs were like, I can't believe we got this. This is changing the whole game, just like Digital Foundry was saying. But that kind of, to me, that's a chess move by Sony for a couple of reasons. And one is, if you're going to convince people, let's say you're going to approach a dev who you currently have a third party relationship or even a second party relationship with, if you wanted them to go from third party to second party, then it's got to be a sweet deal for them to know, I love the hardware. Like, I love it. I love developing with you guys. You came and talked to me about what I wanted and you made it happen. So maybe you're more open to doing something or a business relationship with Sony for that reason. And on top of that, I think it's just as sweet a deal to get studios to go from second party to first party like Guerrilla did. You brought them in and you say, listen, you guys know the architecture. It's going to get that much better because we're listening to you. It's going to be easier to develop for. It's going to be quicker to develop for. And on top of that, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, no, that's what I was going to say. Now you shorten your window of time. If you do have these people making exclusives, maybe it used to take 3 years for the bulk of the cycle, then a year of Q&A, and you got a game. But what if you can shorten that now? What if you do good for yourself as a publisher, because you can say that game that would have taken you 4 years on PS4, now it's going to be out in 3. Now, how we do our first party releases, we can keep some stuff flowing instead of everything waiting until 2017-18 to really get going for this generation. Maybe now you can get some shit out in 2021. The first full year can get you a major release, and the same thing with the second and third. So that's the one thing about the specs and how I think what they design may be changing the landscape. That's the benefit of it to me. Yeah, it really has nothing to do with Xbox, because multi-platform games that will go on both systems will be capped at running whatever the lower common denominator is between both systems. So it would not matter. Like, Xbox audio can't use 3D audio shit, and PS4 can't use the PS5 can't use the Xbox's CPU power. So they have to be able to make a game that's going to use the lowest common denominator. The Xbox won't be able to run at the PS4's SSD. I keep saying PS4, but PS5's SSD speed. So third-party shit that's going to be on both platforms, it won't matter. In this case, it will be limited to what Sony can convince people to put on just the PlayStation 5. And I think that sets them up to do really, really, really good content for the PS5 generation.
Yeah, it also sets them up to really make their exclusives like stand out. Like, yo, only our exclusives do this type of shit. So that's definitely gonna say. And I'm glad you brought up the whole fact that, and it's kind of funny because usually with console generations, there's always one console that's like technically weaker than another, so it holds things back, just for lack of a better term. But in this case, both consoles have aspects that weaken things, so developers have to compensate and make something that runs on both of them. So it's kind of interesting how this time around it's like Sony has something that's better than Xbox, but it's weaker than another platform in another field, and vice versa. But again, I'm very excited over the prospect of getting actual new game world designs and stuff. Like, again, and all you guys that are gamers, you all feel it, right? When you're going through a game, even if it's a brand new game you never played before, you feel like you've been here before. When it comes to level design, like you instinctively know, okay, got to turn this corner because the shit's gonna be over there. You kind of know what's going on. So it would be cool to kind of reset the clock back to when you first started gaming, where you didn't know what the hell was going on. So that's cool. And I like the fact that developers are pretty excited about it. And going about developers, remember, like when it came to PS4. Mark Cerny specifically said, we asked developers what do they want in this system, and we gave it to them. It seems like they're even doubling down even more on that philosophy this time around, which is actually really cool, because obviously if developers could make the games they want, we're going to get a better product, which is great. And then also on the last thing I want to talk about, which you brought up, it was kind of funny, Will, like now you're inspiring me to talk about some shit right now, man. A full circle, baby,
Yeah, let's go. Shit.
Like, yo, okay, because this is something we brought up on Throwdown a lot. It comes up at least once a month where we talk about, if you want a really good game, I'm talking about AAA fucking quality high ass game, typically takes 4 years. If you could get it back to the old days, the shit didn't take that long. If you could cut that time down even by a fucking third, that'd be amazing, because that's one of the things that happens, like this generation specifically. Why do you think we have so many remasters and remakes? Not only because of the fact that people buy them, but because new games take a long time to fucking manufacture, good ones at least. You could crank out some bullshit, whatever, but the good games take a while to come out. So just even the possibility that we'll get good quality games faster is fucking exciting, man.
Even bad games take a long time to make.
Anyway, so yeah, we haven't really talked about the Xbox so much. So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Since we're talking about fucking SSDs and all this proprietary shit, Xbox's solution's very interesting. Portable SSDs, basically, that you stick into the back of the system. So Chris, why don't you start us off on that? What do you make of that? And tell us all the specs and all that other shit.
Well, I mean, it's a good idea. Again, they're approaching us from another angle. Microsoft
literally another angle, the back of the box.
Yeah, and they worked with SSD manufacturers to get a custom external done, so you could just stick this cartridge basically
Seagate.
with the same type.
Seagate,
oh, they work with Seagate. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know why Sony didn't do this, like partner with someone like Western Digital or Samsung or somebody to make an add-on. But so they went and did it, and so you have a custom thing. You could just probably buy it right from Microsoft. Now there'd probably be a markup, or Seagate. I don't know how they're going to work that out. I would assume Microsoft would sell it. You could buy this expansion and put it right in the system and not need to worry about going and finding your own on a site. And so that's very interesting. It runs. It's supposed to run as fast as the internal SSD connected to the bus. So that's pretty good. So you have expandable storage. Now I don't know how it's going to work with if you plug a standard external drive in there. What you can do, I assume you'll have the same kind of issue if you try to run a Series X game on an external drive.
Officially, they said that for the Xbox, you cannot stick an external drive into that thing.
Oh, they did? Okay, I didn't know that.
Officially from the thing, it doesn't say anything about that, so I don't think you can do it. I think their only solution is that, kind of like the way the old Xboxes were, where the only hard drives you could stick into them were.
Right,
Xbox
it goes back to the
branded
360 days.
Yeah, no, Manny, I think you're wrong. I think you can. I
haven't seen anything about that, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. We were talking about it on the Discord like yesterday or a couple of days ago.
But why make an external? But why go to Seagate to make an external memory expansion?
Well,
and also include that.
No, because I think it's for fucking backwards compatible games or something like that. So I think maybe the proprietary one is for the Xbox Series X games, kind of like how we're expecting probably the PlayStation to work, where the proprietary or the super fast SSD are used for the new games, and the externals, the third party ones that you can get from anywhere and that are significantly slower than you can get are for Xbox One and 360 games.
I would agree with that only because I think it would hurt Microsoft to pull that option away. You could stick an external right now on an Xbox One X. So if they pull that away and say, no, you have to buy this Seagate custom SSD to expand your Series X, I think that would piss a lot of people off. If you're taking away options. So yeah, I see it working like that. And I mean, it's a smart move. Again, they approach it from different philosophies. Microsoft opened the door with Seagate to partner and make that shit. Smart move. I don't know if down the road Sony won't go, hey, we're making our own SSDs. I was joking with Tony yesterday about it's the memory stick duo all over again. That shit, you get an SSD that costs like 3 times the cost of a normal one coming from Sony.
But I mean, you could say the same thing for whatever Microsoft is offering. We don't know how much those SSDs are going. It's essentially a custom cartridge that they're
sure. Yeah, they could
making.
Yeah, they could do that too. And again, it harkens back to the 360 days. Like their add-on hard drives for the 360 were way more expensive than a comparable drive you could put in your laptop or PC. So I mean, you're gonna have the same difference, but they're making it custom with a custom bus. So they what are you going to do about it? They're not giving you the ability to go on and buy an M2 drive like Sony is. Sony's allowing you to do that.
I can't wait to buy a 2 terabyte proprietary SSD for the same price of the console.
Yeah, right. $500.
I mean, at least for the PlayStation ones, I'm pretty sure they're going to be up there, man. Because those, I don't know. That's the part that scares me. I'm like, because I know what 800 gigabytes, 1 terabyte is not enough, man. Not now, not in the past 5 years.
No.
So
and I wonder if you're gonna have to do something where you got to buy like a big external drive and kind of move data around. Like I wonder if the OS will allow you to go, okay, I want to play this game now, and it pushes that to the SSD and pushes the old game off onto like external storage, so you can kind of keep your games, but you just can't play it off the storage. It's just there as like a backup, so it moves things around.
Yeah,
kind of like the way it's done is kind of done now.
Yo, Tony, you remember?
Yeah, what's up?
Granted, you can play games off of the externals.
Yeah, you can play games off. At least for PS5, you can play games off the externals. It's just only PS4 games that you can play off the external.
Yeah.
What were you gonna ask me?
Oh, no, actually, let's forget about that. Let me segue to something else. Since you triggered me, man.
What?
You said, you get the externals for the PS4 games. What about the PS3 and PS2 and PS1 games?
Are we gonna talk about that?
Wow.
No, we will talk about that, but I'm just questioning should we talk about that because I still got more questions for you guys.
Yeah, we still got to talk about some Xbox. We have to be fair and balanced here. We can't just be skipping over.
We ain't CNN.
Oh no, we will be talking about the remastering engine. People, don't think we're gonna skip that. Don't think we're gonna skip that. It's so bad. Actually, Brett, I want to hear your thoughts on all this stuff that we discussed so far, man.
Yeah, I'm chilling in the cut. My response is that this is so bullshit. I'm not even gonna bother getting angry about it.
Whoa!
Shit!
Brett, the voice of dissent.
I want to hear this.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting.
Sony. I hate to say this. I feel like we've been here before. I see you cheaping out. I see you. Come on, 800. That's. Oh, we're gonna put a terabyte in the system and use it some for system storage, and then they can have the rest, and then they can add other things to it. Like it's not forward thinking at all. In fact, it's almost fucking insulting. Again, this is a face of Sony I've seen before, and I quite frankly don't really like. So I'm gonna see how they come forward, but like they just seem to. The way this fits into everything is it's another fart in the wind, man. Like Sony, you're failing to impress me. At this point, I'm just like, all right, well, nothing's locked in. We're gonna see what happens. I mean, I'm sure I'm eventually gonna get both, but who gets first dibs is pretty well up in the air right now.
Very interesting. I'm pretty sure the guys in the chat are gonna say something about that. Anyway, Carlos, go ahead.
So
what, did I not a Sony pony?
No, that because these guys are saying that Sony's approach is revolutionary, forward thinking even.
Okay, can somebody explain that to me?
I think it's because of the SSD, all the shit it does or whatever with the loading and all that other stuff. I think that's what it
would
is.
just one of the biggest parts of it, and this is what's broken down during the thing, is that essentially it would mean that games wouldn't have to take as much space as they used to, because they wouldn't have to constantly be duplicating items and environments and bits of AI and all kinds of other things to make the load times in the older systems work better. You know,
I mean, okay.
Like, in other words, and a good example is like for a game like Spider-Man. Spider-Man has different versions of New York City. So for each version of New York City that you go to, there's actually a duplicate New York City that's in the different lighting pattern, as well as every single object that's in it. In this case, it would be, okay, now we have we don't need to make an alternate New York City to do this. We have just the lidded night version. It's like stuff like that. So you wouldn't have to make duplicates of items and things and places and boxes for each specific level. It would just call those things, and it would supposedly instantly get those things, as opposed to having to kind of, when you go to the next level, everything that needs to be in that level is in that level. And then you go to the next level, everything that needs to be, so it means you don't need to duplicate it multiple times, meaning the game wouldn't have to be as big.
And I get that. And that is a very clever way to make use with less. And like, I'm not saying like fuck you, Sony. I'm just saying, like, okay, the couple things I was really expecting was, I was like, I mean, it's gonna have a terabyte of hard drive. That's pretty obvious. And then it didn't. I was like, oh, okay. It's gonna have SSD. If it doesn't, that's fucking stupid. And it needs to have backwards compatibility. Like, I saw a lot of what I expected, which is good. Maybe my expectations were too high, but I also saw some stuff that I've heard. I didn't see. My bad. I've been phrasing that incorrectly. I've heard secondhand, mostly from you guys. I'm not super impressed. It just seems like somebody is showing me a slightly more powerful PC that's in the budget. But like, this whole thing feels like somebody's like, hey, yo, man, like, check out this new laptop. It's a couple $100 more. It's a little newer. It's this year's model. And you're like, all right, well, what does it do? Like, oh, well, it's an HP, and it like, okay, well, what's the hard drive on it? Like, what's the processing speed? And they tell you, it's like 2.6, and you're like, what the fuck, man? And they're like, well, it's it's technically like a fucking quadra-core, like some new core thing that like uses memory in different ways. And honestly, that's the point in which I kind of stop understanding. But I'm like, all right, cool. So you found a neat trick to make it more efficient. It's the equivalent of like what a Honda Civic did. You built a smaller, more efficient engine, and you say that you're going to need less, but that's up to the fucking developers. That's on how they use that. Like, we're already running out of memory storage. A terabyte isn't enough already. Like, that's the only thing I'm really mad about. Everything else, I'm just like, all right, cool. That I'm kind of pissed about, because I feel like Sony is basically saying, buy an external hard drive. It's not our problem.
Well, no. I understand where you come from, but we can't look at just the size of it. You have to understand, Sony had to come up with custom ways to adjust the entire pipeline of data moving from storage up to memory, and then adding these
awesome.
adding extra processing. But all this comes at a cost, right? So if they decided, okay, we're gonna match Microsoft and we're gonna clock the CPU at the highest speed possible, no variable frequency, maximum output. We'll put a sound processor in this, that, and the other. Fix all these bottlenecks, put this custom storage in at 1 terabyte so it has the extra chips on whatever, then they lose, because then that system comes out at $600, right? and then immediately, and then Series X comes out at 500 and they lose. So they needed to strategically cut costs in areas while still trying to get as much performance out as possible. It's a tough balancing act. So while that number 825 doesn't sound so good, it's like, oh, that's not enough space, man. That doesn't sound impressive. All the other things they had to do leading up to getting the data throughput so high, and then compromising on variable frequency and the storage space. That's where the impressive stuff comes in. That's what the presentation was yesterday. That's the stuff he can explain to consumers, because that was a developer conference that he was giving. That's not for everyone else. So
yeah, I think I'm gonna have to do more research. I'm gonna have to. I haven't. Like I've said, I've seen the secondhand, firsthand. I think, and actually do some side by side comparison.
Brett, I'm disappointed on the size of the SSD storage, but as far as the technology and the R&D that went into the way it was all designed to utilize it is the most impressive thing that Sony has with the PS5. That's their quote unquote revolutionary part. That's the part that's getting everyone excited. And
is that? I mean, how is this fundamentally different than like?
So for example,
Cell
Cell is an architecture for CPU, but for example, like with the SSD and the way it's connecting with the memory, with the RAM, and going into the CPU to process and the GPU to process, they're promising. Well, I don't know if it's a promise, but they said that theoretically they can have no loading times on their games. So just imagine.
But how are they doing this exactly? And maybe this will be good for other people who really just need a dumbed down version, because I'll be honest, I've been making dinner and half paying attention.
Brett, don't feel bad, man. It's right over my fucking head.
They're able to push huge amounts of data into memory and then process it at a much faster speed than they're capable of now. Like
how though? Like what is
it's
this?
It's orders of magnitude faster because because the I/O transfer of the current way that the bus connects to the storage in the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X is too slow to accommodate that kind of load times. So he was talking about yesterday that they buffer 30 seconds of game data into memory, right? So every 30 seconds it refreshes, but you only have that much buffer, because it's not fast enough to get you any more data, right? So he said now with the transfer rates being orders of magnitude smaller, so going from milliseconds to like microseconds, you now can buffer everything every second. So you can have huge amounts of data pushed into memory, updated every second. So it's almost instantaneous. Like you cannot move around the map fast enough to cause the buffer to exceed itself and have loading screens. That won't happen anymore, and that's because of all the innovations they made in I/O, this Kraken thing, and improving the bus speed, making the custom interface between the SSD and the memory, and that's where a lot of the R&D and their money has gone. And you can't achieve that in a PC right now because motherboards are all standardized with PCIe standards. They don't have to follow a standard. They made their own proprietary bus to do this.
Just imagine playing Fallout 4, and you're on one side or Fallout 5. You're on one end of the map, and you're fast travel to the other end of the map, and it takes a second to get there and start playing again.
Yeah, it's literally fast travel. You would just blink and it loads.
Yeah, I get that. Like you basically gotta have
Brett, you're
whatever stored up.
I'm gonna.
No. Brett, finish your thought.
I don't hear him.
Basically that I get it.
Damn it! You cutting out that punchline again, man. I think he's on now.
Just go.
Yeah, you sure? No, Brett. I noticed whenever you're moving, that's when it starts cutting out. You gotta just stop.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah. Stop moving and talk.
Okay, so that I get it has quick access memory storage, and it's cool they're able to basically clone that kind of open more, close that kind of thing. But it's good in how we use games now. But I don't know if it's gonna lead to like a lot of. I'm good. Like I said, I'm gonna have to look. I'm clearly gonna have to do some research before I can state a strong opinion on this.
Right. I mean, it's hard to understand because the kind of minutia numbers weren't there in the presentation. He got detailed, but not absolutely detailed. He didn't say, well, how many microseconds does it take for a chunk of data, however much chunks they take. Let's say it's like 512 megabytes. How long does it take a 512 megabyte chunk to move through the file I/O and the verifier and whatever and get into RAM? Then you get into this minutia, and you, if you compared it to, well, how fast does it happen on the PS4 Pro right now? And he would tell you it's happening in comparatively between milliseconds and microseconds. So between thousandths of a second and then millionths of a second. So that's if I told you, Brett, I'm going to give you a bicycle right down the street, the straightaway. And then you go, okay. And it takes you maybe 10 minutes to get to the store. I'm going to go to the store. Right. And then you come back and I say, okay, Brett, here's a Bugatti. Go down to the store. You probably wouldn't be able to brake fast enough when you got there. You get there in seconds. Right. So that's the difference. Right. So when you have that kind of throughput and that kind of data speed, then yes, things change. Now you can design games around that, like open world. You can have the dream stuff that we always wanted. Destructible environments become achievable. Like fast travel becomes achievable. Moving around the map at ridiculous speeds becomes achievable.
Yo, Brett. I'm gonna drop the mic.
Oh,
1 second. I'm gonna drop the mic.
This time, man?
All right.
Uh-oh. Okay.
They'd be able to render the whole Kraken in Sea of Thieves.
Oh shit!
I mean, the best. I mean, a lot of times I remember Brett, you always talking about what about those other advancements in gaming? What about beyond just making shiny games? This is one of those situations. You're not just making a shiny game; you're improving the whole experience of a game.
Right. And putting the heavy loading on the system to handle data throughput and things like that means that all those tricks that developers had to come up with before that Manny talked about will be things of the past. Now that you want developers to focus their energies on creative endeavors and making the best experience possible. You don't want them to waste time trying to figure out tricks to get around hardware limitations. By removing those limitations, they no longer have to come up with trickery and whatever to make the experience work. They just make the experience, and the hardware handles everything else. So that's where the innovations are happening.
And also, it also made me think about the fact that one thing that they were saying was like the audio chip in the PS5 is going to do some work that the CPU or GPU used to do previously too. So now they're freeing up, even though there's less powerful CPU than there will be in the Xbox Series X. But now all of those units are free to just do work instead of carrying on a lot of work of carrying it from the disk to the RAM. It seems like they had to make it really nimble to combat it being as opposed to it being really, really powerful. But the fact that everybody who does really know this stuff is like, this is going to change shit. I don't think we'll get it until we see it in action. And that's why this press conference was like, all right, so what the fuck are y'all doing? If you are going to show me the benefit of this, like they did that little, there was like an off-screen video of Spider-Man loading in like a split second. It's like, give me some practical example of how this is going to make my experience better.
And also, that was an old example. He had done that already. I mean, and also using Dead Space as an example of 3D audio was really bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing, like why not use something else, like another
sacrifice, man.
Well, maybe you can't use that. Maybe you don't want to.
Well, use Horizon then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, man, you use Death Stranding.
Yep, Death Stranding. Right? You could use Death Stranding as
you're gonna use a game from a franchise that is no longer alive, from a studio that's no longer alive. So that was weird. But going back to what you were saying, yeah, it's like the presentation was definitely kind of off. Like if you like what B was said, if you understood what Mark Cerny was talking about, it's like, yeah, like it's really cool and revolutionary and all that, but if you understood it, if you're like a guy like me, you're just like, yo, White, what the hell is Mr. Rogers talking about right now? You know, like dry ass tone. And
nah,
shit.
but don't give them too much credit. Like even like technical people like me and Chris, that shit was still boring as hell.
Yeah.
Like it's like you can just
I don't know,
give
man.
us
You saw my man Goose in there going fucking crazy and shit.
Yeah,
like,
well,
he was
just
like,
hyped for that PS.
He
was just excited for the PS5 stuff.
My man had the Presidentes and shit, Brugal. You know, my man was chilling.
Whoa.
Like honestly, they could have just done a more standard presentation. Like, because this is the first introduction to PS5 to the world from their mounts, other than the wired article and the fucking logo.
Well, remember what happened? They pretty much just copy and pasted their GDC presentation.
Yep. And I'm like, you could have just like most of that stuff that Mark Cerny was talking about. You could have just fucking attached a fucking PowerPoint presentation into the email and just send us the email with the fucking Excel or with the fucking PowerPoint.
Or at least put some background music and shit,
man.
Or you like that? What you like when I put the Digital Foundry music over that, right?
Yeah, that was great, But yeah, aside from that, it's kind of interesting. But on paper, it's kind of the other part I want to segue to. On paper, the PS5 doesn't look as powerful as the Xbox Series X. So, which leads me to ask the question: is it possible, because it's not as powerful, that the system could cost $400? I know it takes $450 to manufacture it. We've covered that already, but
yeah,
it's possible, right? And if that happens, like the power narrative goes out the window, because $400 is $400.
Yeah. Like oh damn, I was going to talk about something else though. Like Microsoft did a way better job at presenting their new system with the whole Digital Foundry thing
by not actually presenting it and giving it to another company to do it.
Exactly. They gave it to another company and an influencer to do it for them.
Shit.
And it's like they did a better job than Mark Cerny did. I mean, Mark Cerny is a fucking genius, but like he can make me like not give too much of a fucks about what he's talking about when he talks like that. It's like, man, you're just putting me to sleep. And the whole thing, they also did the whole the quick resume and the, what do you call that? What are those features called? They went from like 4 or 5 games, like Forza and like some other games, like.
But you notice one thing that you don't show in those Digital Foundry things. They don't show anything. Well, but granted, Sony didn't show anything either. But all they did was just show a bunch of older games.
That's all you can do.
The marginal improvements that they make when you run it on there.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. Like it's not there to showcase the games; they're to showcase the
tech,
console, right? So shouldn't they just say, okay, let's just focus on the console and talk about that?
In general, that's
show the games.
All of it is just supposed to be the same thing anyway. You're supposed to be able to run everything on there, and that brings another question up. And this is we're sort of slowly but surely inching toward there, but PS4 backward compatibility on the PlayStation 5, from what he says, not everything is guaranteed to be able to work on there, meaning it's going to be a case-by-case basis.
They need to test every single game.
Yeah, because they did bring up backwards compatibility, and they said that because of the SSD and all that other good stuff, that it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. They said they're going to have 100 games, at launch, with more coming, which sounds to me like what happened when Xbox originally introduced, its backwards compatibility plan, where they had about 100 games, and then they would roll out like new games every single week. So I guess that's what's going to happen there. Kind of interesting, because I always kept saying like, because they got x86 architecture, it's going to be just just going to be able to run. But Chris, like you said, imagine playing an indie game with that crazy ass SSD. They're going to be running at like 400 frames a second.
Right? Yeah,
and if you don't optimize them,
right? And I think what Sony will do is like the big effort will be test every game and see if it works against the hardware. And if it doesn't, either you have to approach the developer of that game and go, hey, we need to work with you. We need to give you new APIs and whatever, and you need to throttle this and do all this stuff. But what you're going to run into situations where the developer may be out of business. They're not around anymore or something.
Yeah.
So I think the other solution is Sony should come up with something to be able to throttle those games so that they are playable. because you're going to have a percentage of them that cannot be fixed because of some circumstance. The studio's not around, the publisher won't do it. They've, or they could be like, "Nah, we moved on. We're making this new stuff. We're not going to go patch this whole game." So you need to fall back on some solution that probably will have to come from them.
Yeah. Should we get into it now, or backwards compatibility? Because yeah, let's get into it, man.
Let's do it.
So, the very first episode of Throwdown of the year, we had our boy Hip Hop Gamer on, and he very eloquently explained how the PlayStation 5 is gonna have a remastering engine. He did his own video for it. It was about a 16-minute video or so, but on Throwdown he got deep into it. He
gave us an hour of content.
Yeah, we actually made a separate video about that, which blew the fuck up on our YouTube, which is really cool. But yeah, so he said that basically from not only his sources, but some things that he's seen when it comes to patents and all this other stuff, some things he's heard throughout the industry throughout the years, that the PlayStation 5 would be completely backwards compatible with all past generations of PlayStation. That would be PS1, PS2, PS3, and PS4, right? And even though he did bring up a really good argument for it, I was saying, I said this on air too, I have a hard time believing that they could replicate, or let's just cut to it. I have a hard time believing that they could emulate the PS3 games because of that damn cell processor. PS1 and PS2 games, they've done it already. You could play those games digitally right now. They're available. You could get those games right there on the spot. Cell processor games have always been the sticking point. So that's why I'm like, I can't really buy this right now. And now, obviously, during this presentation, right now, it seems like the only games that are backwards compatible are PS4. And even those games come with a caveat that we can't just run every game. It has to be on a case-by-case basis, which leads me further to believe that this system will not have complete backwards compatibility. But with that said, Hip Hop Gamer, to his credit, he still says stay tuned. He says there's more coming. So he still believes this is going to happen. I can't say if it is or not because, Manny and I talked about it. There was a patent for this type of thing that he brought up. They didn't call it a remastering engine, but let's just for the sake of
it was essentially what it was the idea is that you could take a processor and essentially kind of like the way those programmable chips
from analog, right?
Yeah, like those sorts of trips, or essentially it's a big console version of that, where essentially you can reconfigure the processor to trick the software into thinking it's running on the original platform.
Yeah, so the technology exists basically, but I still have a hard time believing this. I'm not calling the man a liar because he obviously believes in stuff and he still does. So we're gonna see about that, but I don't see this happening, man. I really don't.
The one tinfoil hat thing. You remember Cerny's slide on showing backwards compatibility? There was a little space. There was a little space under there because he went PS5, PS4 Pro. It was funny. This PS4 had two slots. It had PS4 Pro and PS4, and I was like, "Why is this two?" That's the same thing.
Yeah.
And then there was a huge gap under it where you could have squeezed PS3, PS2, PS1. So people were like, maybe put them right there."
Yeah. Yo, by the way, people, man, they were grilling our boy Hip Hop, man. They were throwing him under the flames, man. It was crazy. By the way, what Chris is referring to is like, imagine a P shape, right? A basic P shape. In the large part, the top part where the circle would be, that's where it said PS4 and PS4 Pro. On the vertical part of it is empty. So people are like, yo, that's where PS3 and PS2 and PS1 games are going to go. I don't know about all that, but again, it would be really awesome because, and I said this before and I'll say it again, if PS5 would be backwards compatible with all PlayStation systems, which is 25 years of games, instantly wins the generation. Because that's 25 years of games right there. I know we've talked about how backwards compatibility is only important up to a point, but 25 years of games is 25 years of games. That's a lot. By the way, we're joined by Adam right now. What's going on, brother?
Yo, everybody want more slots. Oh, slots for you, slots for me.
Yeah, but yeah, before we go on further deeper into the remastering engine, Adam, because you had some thoughts on the PlayStation 5 reveal and comparisons to Xbox One X and all that other stuff. So, what's your take on everything that you saw?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess you guys already talked about that it wasn't that eventful. It really was just for the industry folk
Yeah,
So
I said they just copy and pasted their GDC presentation.
Yeah, and it's like, come on now, if you're gonna put this front facing to the public, you got to spice it up. You got to say, hey, just like a broader picture, and just try to simplify it. Like we're trying to make it as simple. Oh shit, what happened?
Say the thing. Say the thing, Adam, that you will say.
Gotta give me
gotta give me something.
Yeah,
gotta give me something.
Gotta
have something. And they should have had something to just simplify it right toward the end. It was like, yeah, we give you all this technical spec. How about this? Remember when you used to take your cartridge and shove it in the machine and just play it? That's what we're doing to digital games. We're gonna make it just that simple. You install it, you play it, and that's it. None of the load and all that other shit. We know that's bullshit though. As we already talked about it, that's bullshit. Only because there's other aspects to it, like when we were playing Division 2 yesterday. That's server-based. There's still going to be load, and some people are not going to understand that that's not your console's fault. That's the server, and that you're in a queue and you're waiting to get in. It's completely different. But people are going to shit on it and be like, "What the fuck? What's this?" So it's like it's iffy on how they're going to do that, and I think it's cool. Both of them, Xbox and Microsoft and Sony, want to go the route of the SSD, and it looks like they're putting in, it's a 1 terabyte, right? And we're going to have 850 gigs of space. But man, how big are these games going to be? The games are huge now. They're like 50, 60 gigs now. How big are these going to come in? And then also, he mentioned that you could take the external, but the external is just for your PS4 games, right? And if you want to keep building up on your PS5 library, then you're going to have to get another SSD. But then it's not proprietary, but then it is, because it's a certain type that's not really available. And then you can't just shove any old Joe Schmo, Samsung or whatever into it, because it also has its own design for the cradle for it to hold. So that's going to get complicated also down the road. I was just disappointed that they didn't show something off. They come on, at this point in the game, they know what it looks like. Just show us. Or at least tell us a date when you're going to show us. Because then it was like, all right, well, we're going to show you stuff later in the future, later next year. I mean, for years to come, he's putting these broad pictures out there. Like, wait, but what about now? What's happening now? We got 2 channels over. You got Xbox, people kissing their new Xbox X Series X, showing it off and doing all this stuff. It's like, just show us something. That's all. We just want something, right? You got to have something. And if you know that millions of people are tuning in to watch this, and yeah, they're going to be excited for the specs, but they want to see something. It's like that with everything in life. You could talk about a car being fucking awesome and they could hover and do all kinds of things, but until someone sees it with their eyes, it doesn't mean shit. So, whatever. And they didn't care. I mean, we didn't get anything today, and that was the outcry that I saw online. Everybody was like, yo, where's the image? Where's the pig? Something. Show me something. And nothing.
Oh, man. Anyway, so yeah, let's get back to the remastering engine and all that. Carlos, what's your take on that, man?
I was always skeptical. A lot of the points that hip hop made were valid points. But I just felt like they were all too sort of like, I think it was still kind of pie in the sky, the whole thing, like especially with the PS3. And now that they mentioned the whole, we have to test every game on a game by game basis. That itself eliminates the whole remastering engine, because the whole point of the remastering engine was that remastering engine was in charge of, porting the games, like handling the games. Like there wasn't supposed to be any, developer interference where they have to test them. Like they were supposed to be ready from the get-go. And Mark Cerny, he confirmed it, quote unquote confirmed it, that wasn't going to be the case. They needed to test the games because they don't know how these games are going to run. They could be, you could be playing Burnout for the for the PS3, and the car is going to be going at 1,000,000 miles per hour. Who knows what the hell will happen?
Yeah.
Especially if on one of those games that are uncapped, where they just essentially run as fast with whatever the engine is running.
Yeah,
kind of like the way old PC games used to work.
Yep. So that in itself already, negates the claims that hip hop was making. So I don't really know what else to say. I like everyone else, I really hope he was right, because I mean, we all have like PS3 games and PS2 and PS1 games that we love. We'll get them on eBay for like $2 and just stick them into the disk drive of our PS5 and get to play them. That would be pretty sick.
But he also made it clear that it's like, hey, if you have your PS4 stuff, yeah, it's going to get a boost or whatever just from performance, but it's not going to get all the bells and whistles. It's still going to have all the load issues. It's going to have whatever you think are load issues, whatever issues it had before. It's going to port over. That's why those are going to be on the external. Because if you take those games, you put it on that SSD, it's still not going to do anything because the game wasn't designed for it, and it doesn't seem like it's going to have any kind of patchwork to make it happen, or else he would have said, hey, your favorite games that's on PS4, yeah, put them on external, but if you want it to be new and improved, dump it on an SSD. He didn't say that.
No, he did. He said it's a case-by-case basis.
No, a case-by-case, but that's what I'm saying. It's like we don't know, so he can't offer that.
Well, no, remember they said at launch it's going to be 100 games, PS4 games that are going to be playable on PS5.
Of course.
They have to be optimized per game.
But it's not going to have the whistles. That's only on the hard drive.
Yeah. I think it's just so. Remember we talked about this during the division last night. It's like you can't have an indie game running at like 500 frames a second or something.
Yeah.
So, they definitely got to talk more about that. But I think they're going to roll them out just like Xbox, like a couple of games every week or so, but again, like Chris was talking about, like some of these companies may not even exist anymore. So who knows?
We might not exist.
Well, that's a whole other story right there.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
All right. Any last thoughts on the Xbox and PS5 specs and all that shit?
I actually want to get in on the backwards compatibility.
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Yeah, go ahead, man.
All right, so I still think they're gonna drop a bombshell and say that everything back to PS1, including PS3. And the reason I think they didn't do it at the Cerny talk was because, like we all know, this was for developers. This wasn't supposed to be a get the crowd hype type presser, even though it should have been, because once you realize that you haven't given anybody any news for 3 months and everybody's just waiting and you're telling everybody to tune in, yeah, this just went from a developer presser to a worldwide what's the news on the PS5 presser. So they should have known to tailor it to the public, but they obviously didn't. It just seemed like, hey, Mark, just give that talk, we'll record you, we'll put some stupid goofy shadow audience members in the background and the foreground and
MST3K shit,
Well, either that or do like the WWE and essentially have a bunch of empty chairs.
Oh my god!
And having one guy yelling "hell yeah" in the background.
Yeah, that jump was weird, but so it just seems to me like they're waiting to they've got all their cards kind of like up their sleeve, right? And I think they're waiting to drop them. And GDC wasn't the place to drop that. So this presser, because this was just GDC for them, wasn't the place to do it. I think they're gonna do it because I don't know if any of y'all have been running PS Now at all. They like I get the trial like once every 6 months because I try it for like 5 days and they're like, all right, that's it. I'm like, cool, I'm not paying for this shit. And I never renew it. But every time I do it, there are two things that are happening. First off, a lot of the games on PS Now right now are the same games that are coming to Xbox Game Pass. Except Game Pass tells you, hey, we just added Control and Tomb Raider, whatever the last Tomb Raider game was, and Hollow Knight. And PlayStation Now doesn't tell you shit, but those games are up there. So to me, it's like, all right, so you guys are at least gonna be matching Xbox Game Pass going forward. But the other thing that I noticed was when you play PS3 games on there, where are those games running? When you're streaming PlayStation 3 games, there's not a PlayStation 3 way on the other side of the internet that's running that game. It's optimized on somebody's PC more than likely and getting streamed to your PS4. But technology has already happened, right?
Oh, hold on, I got to stop you. Are we sure about that? Because correct me if I'm wrong here. I could have sworn that it actually is PlayStation 3s on the other end. Like just a bunch of them just network together.
Well, you mean like a GeForce where they're running all these servers and that's where it is? It's just on the remote?
I could be wrong about that. I could have sworn that that's how they got the PlayStation 3 games to run on PS Now. They basically got a shit ton of PlayStation 3s like connected. I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Yeah, Goose says I'm right. I don't know about that. Yeah, I mean, again, that's what I heard. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm not 100% sure either. I'm just guessing based on how regular each of those PS3 games.
Yeah, the guys in the chat are saying I'm right about it. All right.
Yeah, I think you are right because here's the problem. How they slice up computation. This is with any like cloud-based thing. So you get an instance where you get a certain amount of CPU time or whatever on a standard server, but the problem with PS3 is the emulation isn't quite there yet. So to be able to get you the performance of streaming the game and emulating it on their end at the same time on PC hardware, that'd be impossible. It would be a horrible experience. They couldn't make that work. They'd have to do it Tony's way, where the instance is you actually get a PS3 that is computing the game for you, like it would normally, like you're sitting there, and then piping it to you. That's the only way to get it to work right now, or to get it to work somewhat seamlessly.
Okay, so let me ask y'all this then.
Yeah.
If we had been told a year ago that the hard drive in the PS5 was going to be capable of 5.5 gigabytes per second, will we have believed it?
Guys, answer because I don't know. I don't even know what the fuck that shit means. So you guys go for it. Yeah.
Okay, like normal like SSD, well, quote unquote current SSDs that run on PCI 3.0, they are around 3.5 gigabytes per second. So hence, if you had said, okay, the PS4 is doing that, then I would have been like, it's not out of the realm of possibility in that they could take something that's standard, change a few things around, make it custom. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. It just kind of was a bit like, it seems a bit much.
It seems unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, the PS3 had DDR5 RAM before a lot of other things had DDR5 RAM.
Yeah, that's true too.
DDR5? Is that even out yet?
Yeah, it's on a lot of graphics cards and.
Oh no, that's GDR5.
GDR5, yeah.
Yeah, hold on. I said like DDR5, like wait.
No, GDR5,
yeah.
You made DDR5. That's confirmed.
So
the
the reason I'm asking,
my motherboard.
I was asking because like it seems unlikely. Like the PlayStation 3 seems so much of a headache for Sony that they'd be like, all right, listen, everything but that, guys. Look, the PlayStation 4 was a great generation. We're bringing that whole thing forward. The PS2 was a classic generation. We're bringing the whole thing forward. PS1 is where we got started, and that's it. I think the omission of the PlayStation 3, even though it wasn't the most noteworthy PlayStation console, I think the omission would be a bigger deal than just saying, hey, nothing before the PS4. Because like Tony already said, PS2 is easy. It's already on the PlayStation Store right now. PS1, same thing. PlayStation 4, we promised you that was going to come forward when we first started talking about this thing. I think the PS3 that's the fan service. That is, we're going to give you a solid right here. Because they use this word, I forgot what press it was released with. He said this is going to be a celebration of PlayStation. This console is going to be a celebration. To me, that means let's brag on all the shit we did. Now, I mean, that's usually when corporations say celebration, they mean let's pat ourselves on the back. And that means a complete forward to back, beginning to end legacy system where you can play everything. Now, I have no idea that shit is even possible. But I think they're rope-a-doping us, honestly, a little bit. Because that presser was boring, goddamn. And I think that they're going to wake us up a little bit once they have some pressers where they got people in the audience, and that energy is going to be back up, and they can for sure get that crowd response. Like, I think everybody saw the Final Fantasy VII remake reveal. What was it, E3 2015?
2015, that's right, yeah, 15, yeah.
2015. That reaction is wild because I had the same reaction in my house, and my wife was like, what the hell is going on? She has no idea. She doesn't know.
Manny and I have never seen Charles Singletary that animated in our lives when that shit got announced, bro. Holy shit.
I mean, it was big shit. It was really big shit. And I think they want to play that card when it can have the biggest effect. That's what I fully expect to happen. And that's nothing but conjecture. But that is what I expect to happen with BC.
Yeah, and that's something else that I was wondering about, because obviously we have this do we think Sony is going to show something during E3 week just to kind of offset some of this stuff, or at least just give us something what we really want? But the thing is, I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted about this. By the way, I'm not letting you guys answer because I'm just shoving into this thing. It's like on the one hand, I'm like, this presentation was fucking boring. It wasn't done right, but at the same time, you need to get that info out there too. You know what I'm saying? So I can't get too mad about it, but at the same time, they could have done it better by. I'm sorry. Mark Cerny, you're the man. You should have given that shit to Digital Foundry. Let them handle it. Because the way they presented the video, that was really good. I love their breakdown. Granted, it still went over my fucking head, but they did it in a more, like, engaging way, than Mark Cerny did. But again, the reason we even got this is because, okay, again, what we saw right there, it was going to be available online eventually, but it wasn't supposed to be like a centerpiece. It was just supposed to be Mark Cerny in front of a bunch of developers showing off some E3 shit. And I'm pretty sure Sony was going to have some event and stuff, for the public consumption, but it was just got canceled with everything else that's been canceled this year. So going back around to what I was asking you guys before, do we think Sony's going to, like, finally stop being fucking silent and show some during E3 week like all these other companies are planning to? B-Will, you could go first, man.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they definitely will. I guess we have to kind of figure out exactly what all got slowed down as far as coronavirus. How many people got put on their ass and they can't do work right now? Does that slow down? Because they weren't going to be there regardless. So they were working on some shit around, whether just before, the week of, or the week after. They were working on something for E3 time. We don't know what it was. Maybe they're still working on it and they're using a lot of resources and manpower to get it done, because maybe that would explain why the last presser that we just saw was so cheap looking. Maybe that's why they did it that way, because they're like, look, we got a plan, we got to stick to it. We don't have time to reformat and think about the GDC address. Let's just get it out there because we have to stick to everything else that we wanted to get out on the time frame. So I do expect them to just drop some big bombs. I can't say exactly what. I do think the full backwards compatibility is one, but I think they're going to drop some heavy shit E3 time. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Glorious War says that Richard Ledbetter, from Digital Foundry, he said that he was going to travel to talk to Mark Cerny about this, but obviously, because of what's going on, he couldn't travel to him. So maybe something better was planned to happen, but this Corona shit's been fucking everything up.
I don't think they're going to do anything. The fact that he didn't give any dates and he kept saying later on, and he even mentioned some things about next year. It's just kept pushing it. If you have something and you want to build that hype, you give a date. That's all you got to do. You can say, hey, summertime, not even a direct date, a month or something.
But that's the key thing. I don't think he was there to build up hype.
He wasn't there to say anything. Right. We didn't get anything. We didn't get any the people themselves. No one got anything out of this. This information that we heard was stuff that we knew about when they announced the testing that they showed off of Spider-Man. Remember, they were talking about, it's on SSD, and they were talking about how fast and then the world and how it looks. Okay, that's great. But if you know, especially, and this is what everyone kept saying, right? It's like, oh, well, it's competition, quote unquote, because I don't think Microsoft is listed as competition. But still, if you know that they have a console and they've already shown it off and they got all the stuff said and they got other things that they're always announcing, throw something else out there, or at least a date of when you plan on showing something else. And it's got to be something going on with production or something behind the scenes, which is why they're holding off on it. Something's going wrong. Not working according to plan, and that's why.
Well, there's Corona shit for one,
Exactly, but then they could just say that. That's what I'm saying. They could say, "Hey, we have other things with production, but as you know, there's certain facilities and things are shutting down." Okay, we understand. They're not saying shit about shit.
Oh, this is interesting. So apparently, Richard Ledbetter did speak with Mark Cerny privately, through chat or whatever, and he said that Cerny told him some things about the PlayStation 5 that he cannot reveal at the moment. So that, I guess, that lets you know that something's happening. But Adam, just quickly on what you were saying about the thing, Mark Cerny did say the system is coming out this year, and Xbox also said the same thing. They said,
"I don't believe it."
Yeah, I don't know if you're free to not believe it. I mean,
I don't believe it. Only because it's
possible that something else may not be. Yeah.
Something's going wrong, and he doesn't want to tell us.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but yeah, don't put it past them delaying the shit. It's still possible, and with the way things are going, things may get, I don't want to sound like be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. Things could potentially get worse, which would delay the systems,
what we need to do.
I think you shut down California. You know,
well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The only thing we can do then try to figure this out is just to see where they're producing this. I remember for a long time Microsoft was using Mexico for the Xbox 360.
Listen, I'm not going to go into that whole thing. America needs to stop. Mexico's a good place to manufacture America. That's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah. Mexico's a very good place. It's right down there. That's all I'm saying about that. Carlos, what were you going to say about Sony and announcements and all that other shit?
I wasn't going to say anything. I think you're just thinking about Mexico and just thought about me.
No, it's not that, because you were actually about to say something, then I cut you off.
Oh, shit. I don't even remember, man.
Damn, man. Too much tequila, you Mexican bastard.
Oh, damn.
That's racist. Well,
hey, I'm Dominican. Racist. I can say it. I can say it, man. I can say it. It's cool.
Shit. No, I don't remember. Maybe I was going to say something. I forgot.
Yeah.
I'll think about it.
Yeah, it's all good. All right. Any last thoughts on... By the way, I knew that this segment would pretty much cover an entire episode's worth of shit. There's still a couple things I'm going to bring up, but I just knew it's a hot, it's molten fire. Even though it's a bunch of tech shit. But the guys in the chat are fucking loving it, man. They love this tech stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'm just sat here just wanting... I just want to see the price point and...
Yeah.
Again, like in the back of my mind, I'm kind of dubious that you have to be forced to put in an SSD that's that powerful. I'm sure that that you can just handle like a normal one, but it just won't perform as fast. I think Mark Cerny just says that if programmers like programmed to this spec, then by forcing everyone else to be faster than that, then this illusionary wall of like faster games can be held up. So I think that's why that is. But even then, I'm just kind of annoyed that... Well, I just want to know, can I install my PS4 games on an SSD and have it run smooth? Because I'm not...
No, you can't.
Why can't I do that?
I don't know. That's the whole point, because he just said all your PS4 games should be on that external, not the SSD. The SSD should be for your PS5.
I want it on SSD so that it loads faster. Like, even if it's not taking advantage of its extra sexiness... it still can have the brute force of, hey, it's still fast data going in and out, hence the levels load faster, that type of stuff.
Did you put an SSD in your PS4?
Hell no.
Well, there's tests you can see. I have a hybrid, but I've watched a few tests, and there's a few seconds shaved off here and there.
Oh no, you you put like a real SSD in that stuff, then it just loads fast. Like I'm playing Halo Reach on PC, and the bar at the bottom just keeps going up. Like it just keeps going and then just gone. Like levels load in maybe 7 seconds, which I think is nothing. Like that's enough time to like take off my headphones, take a sip of water, and put them back on again. So if I can get that level of performance on just standard games, then that's fine by me.
Yeah, and Adam, I don't think they would stop you from putting the games on there. That's why they're doing all this testing, right?
He said it. I'm not saying it. He said it. He was like, hey, if you have PS4 games, we said you can put this on your external, use your SSD for PS5. He said that. He never said anything about, hey, go ahead.
This, by the way,
when he was talking about the external, the difference between an external and an SSD, he said you can use an external, but use it for your PS4 games.
Yes, but he didn't say exclusively use it for PS4 games. He didn't say you could put PS on the internal.
He also said that it wasn't going to give you any boost if you did it. So, I don't believe it.
Well, it would technically. There's no way to stop it from giving you a boost in loads and speeds. It's moving so damn fast through the.
No, I understand that, but we have it now. I mean, you can see those tests now. People that have put a full SSD in their.
No,
PS4.
But that doesn't matter. He talked about that. It's the I/O that's the problem. You can put an SSD in the PS4 Pro. He said you're only getting like maybe double the speeds.
Yeah,
he's talking about increasing it by a factor of 10. That's a tremendous difference.
Yeah, it is. Don't believe it.
Damn.
No.
I don't believe it.
All right, if you don't believe it, you don't believe it then.
I gotta see it. It doesn't matter what. You know me. I'm not biased for any of these damn companies. I have to see it for myself. They all say. I remember when Microsoft and all of them were saying, "Oh yeah, all these games are going to be, HD and 60 FPS," and that shit never happened. So I still don't believe this.
All right, that's fair. We have been duped before,
Yeah, it's like it's just selling points. That's all. They're just going to tell us whatever we want. Support 8K. Who the fuck's going to get an 8K TV? Come on.
By the way, Adam, your comments are not going over well in the comments right now, man.
For what? I'm not going to kiss their ass. That's it. It's like until I actually see it, that's it. All these companies blow smoke in our face. Microsoft does it, Nintendo does it, you name it, they all do it. So I just want to see it for myself. I don't want to hear that, oh, it could do this, possibly do this. We can test this. This might work. Fuck that. I want to know and I want to see it with my own eyes and touch it and know what it can do. I'm not going to go based on some spreadsheets.
All right, there you go, man.
That was a PowerPoint, sir.
him and his invisible friend. What the fuck? That was horrible. Mystery Science Theater style. Oh my.
Wait, Adam, you don't have a Division tattoo, do you?
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Okay, because Reggie's saying that he's saying that you claim that you're not biased towards the company, yet you have a Division.
That's a game. That's not one of these. First of all, that's the other thing. That's a game. That has nothing to do with a manufacturer. That's a multi-platform game. This is on anything. I'm sure eventually one day they'll put it on the Switch.
Oh man, could you imagine that shit?
I could imagine that shit. You know, so that's different. When it comes to these companies or Sony, Microsoft, big ones, no, I don't care. I have all of them. I don't, I'll play them all. I don't care. They all have exclusives, whatever. I'll play those. I don't have any loyalty, no brand loyalty here. Life is too short. Enjoy everything.
Yeah, but Reggie,
I agree.
There you go. Reggie, it's a hat, man. It's a multi-platform game, bro.
Game. I could enjoy a game that's a multi-platform game too.
Yeah, a goose says.
No, man, you gotta hand that shit in.
Right?
Yeah.
Rip
All
that
right.
Diablo tattoo off your body. Give it away.
All right. Any last thoughts on this, guys? Going once, going twice. Right,
yeah. It's. I mean, it was not the best way to introduce the world to the PlayStation 5. It's. I mean, I'm still kind of disappointed that they did the GDC thing. And people are kind of using that as an excuse. It's like, well, it was the GDC. That's what they're going to do in GDC. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty nice. But I mean, developers, if you care about your developers, they should already have dev kits to this thing and already know how this thing works so they can develop games for this console. So why don't you just give us a more digestible presentation? Because no one, like not everyone is knowledgeable in tech like that. Pretty sure 99% of the people that watched it didn't know what the hell he was talking about, and it's like Mark Cerny is I mean, he's obviously really good at architecting these consoles, but he's not the best when it comes to presenting and making people hyped up about the product, or how Tony says the product.
What the product?
The product.
Okay.
you come on, you don't hear it?
No, I don't. Product. How do you say product? Is that how you say it?
The product.
Product?
The product.
Product? That's weird.
Are you trying to get them like when people say data and data? Is that what it is?
Like,
the product?
Am I the only one? We're
going to go.
No, I'm enjoying the hell out of this.
Yeah. So, okay, so Carlos, you say product, and I say product.
Yeah,
obviously they're different. I do hear the difference, at least, know, because I have to like mentally and even physically like change the way I say it. Product. No, so no O. It's a A. Or
product.
And the third variable will be product.
Product.
If we're gonna really enunciate everything, you know what I'm saying?
Like nuclear and nuclear.
Yeah. Well.
Nuclear.
It's nuclear, by the way. Nuclear is if you're fucking retarded. There's those two syllables, not three. Nuclear. That's the hick way, right? Nuclear. No, it's nuclear. Like new Coke, nuclear. All right. So let's get into some other stuff here. Chris, get ready, man. Okay. So check this out. So with all this Corona shit going on, some companies are just closing up shop or whatever. GameStop is saying that if there is a lockdown or shutdown, whatever, like a nationwide one, they claim that they're going to remain open because GameStop provides an essential service.
That's ridiculous, man.
You know where they get that from, though. Remember from 2007 when that same shit came up and they did the same thing. When everybody during a recession, they were like, "What went up? Game sales actually went up, right? People were actually buying a lot of games."
Yeah, but that's a recession. This is different. They're closing. They're limiting the amount of people that can get into places, and they're telling non-essential businesses to shut down. Like the governor of Pennsylvania today had to, maybe because of the GameStop bullshit, he actually said, if you are not a life-sustaining business, he changed the wording. If you're not life-sustaining, you have to close. Right? So, I mean, are they going to argue? Are they going to? I mean, imagine you're fucking minimum wage guy at GameStop. You're going to watch a National Guard guy come in and go, no, guys, don't worry about it. This is essential. What you want to buy? Doom Eternal, Animal Crossing. What do you want?
Wait. Here's a twist on this. Then, are pawn shops allowed to stay open then? Because for some people, that's considered because they need money and they can sell shit.
No, it's not. It's not life sustaining. You do not need a pawn shop to sustain life. You need food, you need water.
Exactly, but you need money. So if your only way of
banks should stay open.
That applies to every job.
No, I know, but I'm saying that pawn shops offer a service in most areas where if you have no money, sell your shit. Let's say you lost your job. No other way. You have nothing in the bank. You got a bunch of consoles and other shit in your house. You say, you know what? I need to sell this shit and get some money so I can get some food. A pawn shop. Who else is going to buy that shit from you?
Yeah. All right. Let's not go down too much of a rabbit hole here. I want to read what GameStop said. Due to the products we carry that enable and enhance our customers' experience in working from home, we believe GameStop is classified as essential retail and therefore is able to remain open during this time.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Yeah. Fucking what service would it? You can't buy a fucking computer where a console's going to help you work. Oh, they're counting Twitch streamers and shit. That's what. There you go.
Yeah, and Adam, they're actually talking about that bullshit you talk about from 2007. It says, we have received reports of local authorities visiting stores in an attempt to enforce closure despite our classification. That's what they say. Mm-hmm. Store managers are approved to provide the document linked below to law enforcement as needed. So it's that bullshit fucking how they're essential because if you're stuck at home, you got to play video games.
Yeah,
fucking retarded, bro.
Well, they also could also be going under the thing that they sell stuff beyond games, which is
hey, listen, when you have
toys?
Listen, when you have a pandemic, you know what you need? You need toilet paper and fucking Funko Pops. Right?
They can.
Do they sell toilet paper? They should do that. They should fucking carry something just to help them qualify.
There's a pandemic going on. The Armageddon's coming. You're gonna go to the supermarket. You're gonna buy some toilet paper, some milk and shit. You know what I'm saying? By the way, don't buy milk. Buy powdered milk if you can. Don't buy the fucking expired.
Parmalat, get goat milk. Put that shit in the cupboard.
You buy that shit, and then what are you saying to yourself? I need another fucking game short. I need a fucking I need a Funko Pop. I need Animal Crossing. That's essential.
It's crazy because couldn't like Best Buy say they're essential because it's like, hey, we have electronics that we sell movies and video games, so we're essential, right? Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah, we got phones. Don't you need phones to call 911 now?
Right. Exactly. You know, by that logic, it's like they're essential, and then other people are going to stretch it. Like shit. Well, I sell phones.
Yeah. Right. I do want to say this one tweet I saw, which was pretty funny because this is the quoted tweet. Then I'll say the tweet I want to mention. The governor of California places the state under a lockdown, ordering all 40 million residents to stay at home to prevent the spread of coronavirus. And this guy called Robert Bowling replies with, "Please only leave your house for food, medicine, and GameStop. The essentials."
Isn't Robert Bowling the Infinity Ward guy? Like he was like the community manager.
Oh shit, that is him. Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Look at that. But yeah, it's like, but he's obviously making light of this. This is stupid. It's like GameStop is not essential. Get the hell out of here.
No.
Hey, listen. You want to get video games? We have this thing called the internet. Download them. You know.
Yep, that's how I got Doom Eternal.
That's it, man. Rip and tear, baby. Let's go.
Ooh, you ready?
Yeah. By the way, Doom Eternal, I was going to give you guys a more of a thorough review, but we're kind of running out of time here. But the game is fucking amazing. Go over to PCMag.com, type in Doom Eternal for PC review. Check out my review. Game is amazing, incredible, fucking awesome. It's even more over the top than the 2016 game somehow. It's fucking crazy, man. Like relentless. It's amazing. But yeah, GameStop, you're full of shit, man.
Does that have multiplayer?
Doom, yes, it does. It has this 2 versus 1 multiplayer. It's kind of like Evolve a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like 2 players versus 1. Where basically two players play as demons, and then 1 player plays as the Doom Slayer. I by the way, check my review again sometime next week because when I reviewed the game, it was not available. Servers weren't around or whatever. So I'll definitely check that out. Should be interesting, because the last Doom game had like a more of a Quake type of multiplayer type of combat shit. Competitive is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
All right. B Will, do you have any thoughts on GameStop's bullshit?
I wonder if they got that statement clear with Reggie before they put that out.
Yo,
If Reggie's gonna be there and advise somebody who steered Nintendo for what 10 years was it? Why the fuck would he let them put that out? Like, why would you let them say that?
Well,
I don't know if he started yet on the board.
I don't think he
also,
did.
Also, the other thing is, I'm sure being on the board, he doesn't have that much sway over what they're going to do or say. Especially if they're mentioning stuff that happened like years ago.
Well, didn't we mention that Reggie, even when he does get on there, he won't really have that much power?
No.
Like the older guys, the guys that have been in charge, the guys who have been fucking up GameStop this entire time, they're still there.
Yeah.
And
they're the guys putting out this bullshit. Sure. And then on top of this, the employees were asking if the corporate could provide them with cleaning stuff. They're like, trade-ins are dirty and shit. We don't want to get. We need gloves and we need stuff to sterilize them. And the apparently corporate told them, and this was on Twitter. I was reading this, that you have our permission to provide your own gloves and cleaning supplies. Basically, they won't provide them with that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hate to do this, but just to give GameStop a little bit of credit, it actually was kind of cool that they sold Doom Eternal a day earlier instead of having the midnight sales and shit. Like, all right, guys, just don't.
I saw something. I saw something online. People were flipping out because they were like, "Well, how come you didn't do the same for Animal Crossing?"
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, the Animal Crossing people were pissed.
Yeah, they were like, "Come on now," because you see these people on Reddit, man. They were petitioning for Nintendo to release that shit early due to the virus. Yeah, they're like, "Yo, we're all stuck home. Come on, release it early." Why don't we?
That's how you could tell Reggie's not doing anything.
Yeah, right.
That was a mic drop.
That was a mic drop. All right, and the last.
Wait, you said wait. What's second? You said it. You said it in a condescending way, Tony.
Whoa, it was condescending. You don't know what a fucking mic drop is, bro.
Yo, man, I dropped the mic, man. That cracking thing, man. That was
that was good. That was good. Keep it real, man.
Yo, man. Yo, shut up, man. That was a pretty one.
Yeah.
Party people, yeah.
All right, yo. The last thing. I threw this in here purely for myself, but this is also for the Sega guys. Okay. Earlier on, by the way, shout out to David Giltonen who celebrated episode 200 of the ARG podcast. I was on there. I'll tell you guys more about it on Sunday, but
happy birthday, Dave.
Yeah, so for the last half of the episode that I was recording right before Throwdown, by the way, your boy's doing back-to-back podcasts tonight. I was freaking the fuck out over this, man. So Sega released this image of basically it's a guy in a gi, right? And they have a bunch of Japanese words and shit with the number 6 on it. I lost my motherfucking mind. I'm like, yo, Virtua Fighter 6? Are we finally getting this shit? So I go to the site, look at the URL. It says Sanshido, right? Like Sega.com/Sanshido. I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Oh, for you guys who don't know, Segata Sanshiro is this like kind of like martial arts guy that they use to promote the Sega Saturn over on in Japan and shit. So this could be one or two things or both, because apparently Sega's having their 60th anniversary and they're gonna announce something next fucking week, man.
Oh yeah, the Saturn 2, man. There you go.
Okay, so it's one or two things, and either one of these, I will slap somebody out of happiness, bro. Okay, either hold on, I can't right now. Let me just get Virtua Fighter 6, which I've been asking for fucking a decade almost. Like 2011 is the last time this game came out. And in the midst of all the, let's just call it what it is. It's a fighting game renaissance. We have all these franchises coming back, blowing up and shit. The fact that Virtua Fighter is not around is a fucking crime. So if we get a Virtua Fighter 6 announcement, that'll be great. And Chris, I'm trying to control myself right now. If we get anything remotely related to the Sega Saturn Mini, I'm just speculating right now, I will kill somebody, man. Like fuck.
Would you really play it? Would you really?
Like, I will choke somebody, son. Like,
I would play it. I would play it.
I don't think Tony would, though. I don't think Tony has time to play it.
No. And by the way, before the show started, B Will was asking me like, "Hey Tony, do you play games for fun anymore?" I'm like, "Not really. No, sometimes I play with Adam, But if this shit comes out, Will, I'm telling you right now, son, Sega Saturn, are you fucking kidding me? Nah,
what's one game? One game. Well, there's always a favorite. What's your one favorite that has to be on this?
Panzer Dragoon Saga, son.
That would definitely be on there. Yeah,
has to be on that shit. Oh my God! Yeah. Again, I don't know what this is. I could just be getting myself overhyped right now. This could be nothing. But I say I'm gonna let myself get hyped. I don't give a fuck, even if this turns out to be
he was kind of like the mascot for Saturn, right?
Or hold on. Imagine Sagata Sanshiro in Virtua Fighter 6 as an unlockable character, son.
Yo, he'll knock you into the sun, man. Did he punch guys into outer space and shit?
Yes, he did. Oh my God. So Sega has some. Hold on, let me look up the date real quick. That's 3/25. Please let that be. Oh, yes, it's the day before Throwdown. You already know, son. You already know.
They knew, man. They knew.
You already know. So your boys are gonna cover this shit. Sega, man, give me some good. Give me some good, man. Virtua Fighter 6. What happened, Adam?
I'm just looking up now. I want to see, because did we ever talk about the mini Sega Genesis Mini? Did that sell well?
I don't know if it sold well, but we did talk about it. I think Manny actually showed his on it.
Yeah, no. That I know he had it, but it's just wondering if it sold well, because then that would justify and explain if they decide to go down the line of a SAT or maybe a Dreamcast later on, based off of the sales.
I gotta look into that.
I'm looking now to see. Obviously, I'm admitting the Sega Saturn Mini is a fucking long shot, but a Virtua Fighter 6 one, I think that's more realistic given the state of fighting games. Like this is like the perfect time. Virtua Fighter 6 show the real 3D fighter. Fuck all that tech and shit. Virtua Fighter 6, man, that's what we need. Fuck Dead or Alive. Fuck all that other stuff. Virtua Fighter, man, bring the real shit back. You know?
I played Virtua Fighter 5, and that feels like a freaking lifetime ago since it came out.
2011. You didn't even have hair on your nuts back then, bro.
That's right. He uses that near shit.
He was a baby
nice
back
smooth.
then. You know?
Nice and smooth.
Still in school, man.
Yo, oh my God, yo, if I'm geeking out right now, but I don't give a fuck, man. There's a few things in this world that make me happy like this, man. This shit doesn't give me this motherfucking shit. Sega, give it to me, man. You've been doing good, Sega. You've been doing good. Yakuza, Persona, all this other stuff. You got Sonic back with Sonic Mania. Bring it back, man. Bring Virtua Fighter back in the trifecta. I don't even have a trifecta, quarfecta, fivefecta. I'm making up shit now. That's how excited I am.
Pentafecta?
You know, the petrofecta, you know, hecta, whatever the fuck. I don't know, man. Oh,
did you say Hector?
Yeah, Hector. Yo, that's my man right there, Hector. That's my man, Hector, man, from back in the street, you know? Oh, man. He's a product of his time, Carlos.
Yo, man. A product.
He's a product, even, you know? Oh, my Lord. All right, let's wrap this up because we got coronavirus to fight, man. Yo, B-Will, man, I want to thank you so much for being on today, man. I hope you enjoyed yourself, man.
Oh, most definitely, man. Love the show, man. Y'all keep doing it. Hopefully, I can come back some.
Yeah, for sure, man. If you somebody keep dropping that fire, you know. So anyway, since you have to do it now, man, promote yourself, man. Where can people find you? What could they expect next? All that good stuff.
All right, so I'm on Twitter at Will_Wright. That's WIL_WRITE. I'm still going to be dropping more feature pieces for the coalition. So be looking out for those. Mostly PlayStation, state of the gaming industry, stuff like that.
That's going to be amazing, man. Yeah, and just follow him on Twitter in general, man. You drop some good stuff, you know.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. Also, how could I forget? This show's been crazy. Shout out to Cool Cat Terry, who won the Logitech G195 gaming keyboard and a free copy of Cyberpunk 2077 courtesy of us, man. So I will hit him up and get his address and ship him this shit as soon as possible. And I'm pretty sure if he's like 99% of our fans, he'll probably want a digital copy of Cyberpunk, which is perfect. Because I can't even fucking... Hold on. Oh, Carlos, we have to do that weird workaround, right? With fucking PlayStation 4 games.
Yeah, so it might just be a gift card for
for $60, you know.
Yeah, because man, they messed.
They're dumb. They're dumb.
Because remember, we used to do that back in the day. We used to
they removed it though. They used to have the ability, especially through Amazon, when they partnered with Amazon, where you could get a digital game code, and then they pulled the shit because they didn't want to give a cut. So
bullshit, Mr. Davis.
It's bullshit.
Yeah. All right, people. So we're done, man. So thank you for watching and listening. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, our show is Tony Polanco, and tonight is joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you later, guys. And there may or may not be something going on Wednesday. I'm still sort of figuring that sort of thing out, but maybe I might do a little Throwdown draws for you guys. So stay tuned.
Woo, woo, woo. Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
Peace out.
Adam Vale.
Be safe, everybody.
Brett Murdoch.
I didn't even need to cause any trouble tonight.
Yeah, man, look at that. Ain't that something?
Party people.
I mean, that's what Alan was here for.
Yeah,
I mean, my job was easy tonight. It's for real party people.
Man. Brian Manjoma.
We just had a discussion about Xbox and PlayStation, and yet no one got angry or upset.
Wow, ain't that something?
That's how things should be, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, listen up, Twitter. You know,
I mean,
companies don't love you.
Yeah. And of course,
we love you.
Yeah, and of course,
exactly, we love you.
Yeah, no, I don't love you. Fuck you guys, man. Yo, this weekend, don't get sweet.
Real, like, we don't know your life, man.
You know, I don't know you, motherfuckers. Yo, Adam, don't get sweetbread on me, son.
Oh, the booty bandit.
Yo, all right, let's cut it off. Yo, and of course, shout out to Brian Wilson, B. Will, man.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, yo, we'll see you on Sunday, man. Peace out.
Deuces.
Yep. Oh, God damn it, Brett.